already at the end of October, the river was swollen and dark, and the hazy sky blurred the rim of the horizon.
My name is Annemarie Ní Churreáin. I'm a poet and editor, and I was the first recipient of the John Broderick Residency programme in Athlone. Not only does he leave behind this really rich body of work, including novels, criticism and essays, but he also leaves behind his estate, which means that there is funds there for the community, the local community in Athlone, to directly benefit from the arts.
My name is Naoise Dunbar. I'm an actor and a voiceover artist. Ultimately, what I think is fantastic about this project is that his impact now can be fully realised for, say, my generation, who, like, he's a contemporary of McGahern, Eithne O'Brien. Yet I wouldn't have had a huge amount of knowledge of John Broderick prior to being involved in this project.
Perhaps John Broderick's most significant impact is in relation to literary censorship in Ireland. John Broderick was acutely aware of censorship and of the impact this had on Irish writers. Reflecting on the Censorship of Publications Act in 1929, he said that there was a sense that the church had now replaced the British government as the chief influencer of Irish life.
And John was an interesting narrator of that moment in time because he was a gay man, he was also a Catholic, and he was writing stories that were incredibly daring, very confronting, and sometimes uncomfortable for people to read.
One of the things about Broderick's writing style that I find particularly interesting and striking is that he takes these kind of odd risks, these sort of strange kind of risks with narration, with how he tells a story, and risk with sort of the tone.
From where she stood, the old woman could see the long, low front of Summerhill, one of the few two-storied houses in that district to remain thatched, with its small windows looking out through the ivy like eyes through a tousled mob of hair.
To be banned in the 50s or the 60s in Ireland really was the death of that book and subsequent books thereafter. So I think as a result of that, John Broderick didn't get to leave the mark that he should have, and I think it's brilliant now that people are trying to bring back his writing and his memory and to keep all that going.
I love the Waking of Willie Ryan because I feel his love of poetry also shines through in that book.
Well, I think The Waking of Willie Ryan, which we're celebrating at the moment, is particularly fresh because it marks the emergence of a queer Irish sensibility in Ireland and the extent to which the church and state delved into private morality and individual freedom.
A car came round the bend and roared past, the blurred-faced occupants glaring at the Ford parked on the wrong side. Mrs. Whittaker got in, started up, and drove along to the Summerhill gates, where she stopped again with a little jerk and an angry intake of breath, for the white hen had reappeared on the ditch and was about to make another clucking swoop on the road.
Being the writer in residence here is just an excellent excuse to read more of his books. Like, sometimes I feel guilty using what I think should be writing time to read, but now it'll be part of the job.
One of my favourite things about The Waking of Willie Ryan is that, and of course as an actor I'm going to say this, but it's the dialogue contained within the novel as well.
I would say that there is no other writer like John Broderick. He is unique in that he was uniquely daring.
He offers us, alongside this, an insightful commentary into the historical prejudices of Ireland, particularly in relation to homosexuality. And he tells us in The Fugitives that, really the only option open to people were either hypocrisy or acceptance of this written and unwritten code.
You get such a beautiful tapestry of Athlone, but also of the whole Midlands area in his language, which I think is really pertinent and will never ever go away, such as McGahern's work has never gone away, or Eithne O'Brien, or whomsoever.
I really think there is a general audience for his work, and I would put my stamp of endorsement on recommending people to read them.
John was writing at a time when voices like his were being excluded and marginalised, and how wonderful it is now to see his legacy and his work flowering.